Welcome to the Game Awards 2022. Now,
Hey everybody,
here's
welcome to
your
Workforce
host.
Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
We are recording this, weirdly enough, on exactly January 1st,
Oh, sure.
2023, which of course means
Funny.
that we need to talk about the year that was 2022
Mm-hmm.
with video games, as we are required to do by law of having a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So, 2022, how'd you feel about it, games-wise? Just in general,
I
before we
think-
get to the awards, quote-unquote.
not to start like totally negative, but I think so. First of all, the indies I think were super good. I think the AAA games, basically the two that we were really waiting for. I think the AAA space was not as good as it could have been,
Okay,
especially those. Yeah, especially with the ones that like I think we were waiting on for a long time, like Horizon and God of War. I think we both could. Won't speak for you. It didn't blow my socks off in the way that I wish it had blown my socks off. But I think there's a lot of like really good mid-tier games that like obviously Elden Ring was really cool. But I think there's like a level of like these like really good, really interesting, really high quality indies throughout. I think that to me is more what 2023 was like that the high quality indie is actually maybe the one setting the bar for games at the moment.
I feel like surprising is just a good way to describe
Yeah.
it. Like feel like I came into this year going like I'm gonna love Horizon, I'm gonna be pumped for God of War, Xenoblade will be cool, like all the like heavy hitters. I'm like, okay, there's like 3 or 4 heavy hitters here, and Elden Ring, which not my thing, but I feel like there's a lot of like weird surprises. Like I loved Live Alive, like
Oh sure,
out of nowhere, like Bayonetta 3 out of nowhere, great game. Like Pokemon had 3 games released this year, like
like and stuff like to be like stuff like Norco is like, oh, this is just
yeah,
something I've never
Norco,
seen
Citizen
before, and those-
Sleeper, like
yeah.
just it was just it's surprising. There's lots of surprising things that kind of popped up that I think was really cool. Crisis Core randomly coming back out, like
Sure. Yeah.
just so much cool stuff. Marvel Snap being like the most addicting thing on the face of the planet.
Yeah. A surprising year, I think, is a good way to put it. I think a surprising year. We were expecting the big ones to be the big surprises, and it was actually turned out to be a lot of little surprises in between. Yeah.
But all right, so we've got like 5 or 6 things here, and then we'll talk top 3 at the very end.
Yep.
Timestamps with different categories, but we'll run through just kind of our best insert thing here, whatever it was, our favorite setting, world building of the year, the best game that we played that we didn't really like but kind of can recognize how good it was, I think is always an interesting thing to pick out. The best game we didn't finish, just because we tend to kind of really focus on games we finish for our channel here. And then best game that we played from not 2022. If you watch our videos, we play a lot of old games. The best new game that we played this year that wasn't released this year, and then finally our top 3. So we'll run through all those here. If something's boring you, there are timestamps below.
I definitely use timestamps for other people's Game of the Year stuff for sure.
I for sure do. It's like, just give me the top 3. Okay, well, let's jump 4 hours in, and I promise this will not be 4 hours. But 4 hours in, you finally get to it. All right, 4 hours in it is. So
Yeah.
anyway, and we'll try to avoid spoilers. I think that's fair if we're telling you, hey, these games are great, go play them, to not tell you,
Sure.
hey, let us ruin them for you. So we'll try to avoid spoilers as much as we can. But the best insert thing here, the best whatever thing you saw in a game this year, what is it?
I'm going to say this is more of a personal one for me. And I would say best, they showed how big the game was, and I wasn't immediately scared off. So when
Elden
I play
Ring?
an Assassin's... It is Elden Ring. It is
yeah,
Elden Ring for sure. So when I play an Assassin... The few times I've played an Assassin's Creed game recently, there's been one where all of a sudden you'll finally get the map and like, here's how big the world is. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And that's generally my reaction to like pretty much any... This is how big our game is.
Every
It's just
Ubisoft game.
Every Ubisoft game. I think even Horizon was kind of a bit of like an, oh no,
see that.
this game's gonna take me forever. But Elden Ring I think was probably the first game where I was like, oh, there's more of this game. Oh, there's more. I was like, oh, this is how people normally feel about these things, about being excited that there's more of this game. I can usually tell how much I'm enjoying a game by how long it takes me to check up on how long the beat is. So for I'm not going to say the other games that I did, but the earlier I'm checking how long to beat, it's like I'm usually kind of figuring out, should I is exactly how much more of this game do I left? Can I jump out now, or should I jump out left? I don't think I checked how long to beat on an Elden Ring until I hit 80 hours because I was just like, when is this? When I was not like, I don't want this game to end, but I was just like, oh, I thought this game was going to end 40 hours ago. But I wasn't checking it to make sure like, oh, I'm going to hop off. It's like, no, there's just like, oh, there's more.
How much more is there more so than, oh God, how much more is there?
Exactly. I think Elden Ring is like the only game that ever did that. And it does a lot of really fun tricks of like showing you how big the map is because you think it's really big at first, but actually it's much bigger, and actually it's much bigger, and actually it's much bigger. It's I'll mention one specific point. I know everybody talks about seeing the underground city for the first time. Great, awesome scene, probably one of the best scenes out there. But there's this castle sort of thing that's in that area that I was like, and I spent hours trying to get to that castle, and I could not figure out how to do it. So I was like, fuck it, whatever, I'll come back to it eventually. I came back. I think I finally did get there. I think 90 hours later, and it was such like a big like, oh my God, this is that thing, this is that place. And it was just really cool that like the game was still making me excited 90 hours later.
Yeah.
And no other games has done that before.
I don't know if I've ever had that. Mine is best giant monster fights.
Ooh, fun.
For Bayonetta 3.
Sure.
Bayonetta 3, when it got some of the trailers closer to it, started showing off all these giant monsters, and it looked like you were controlling giant monsters, and I was really nervous about it because that seemed very antithetical to what Bayonetta combat normally is these giant hulking monsters going at each other. It works so well, and it is so fun to just pull out giant monsters to just smash things. So if you played Bayonetta 1 and 2, when you get like combos and you get special moves, like it kind of goes to like that short like quick time event, they're not quick time events, but like quick time event scene, combo scene, finisher scene where like a giant monster comes out and like eats people. You can control them in Bayonetta 3, and it works, and it's fun, and it's great, and it was one of those things that I was nervous about going in.
Sure.
And as I'm playing it, I just loved it more and more and more and more and more as you got new giant monsters, and you got new kaiju, and you got new abilities for them, and they did new things, and it made the game, in a game that series that is already super over the top, feel even more over the top, and it just was such a unique thing to it that just, I loved it. It was so cool, just to be able to play in a different way, in the way that they intertwined that with Bayonetta moving and dodging while you're still controlling these giant monsters. Just, it seemed like the thing that shouldn't work, and it worked so good. I loved it.
No, it's cool because usually when I think like big hulking things, it's like, oh, it's kind of a slow thing. You do one cool punch or maybe two cool punches or whatever, and then that's it. But it seems like I don't even know many other games that build like whole mechanics around controlling really big stuff.
Exactly, and it's really cool, really cool. So best setting in a game, best kind of world setting, unique thing here. What do you got? I
mean, this to me is so easy.
Is it more Elden Ring? Is every one of your answers going to be Elden Ring?
No, actually, I think Elden Ring. Elden Ring was the one I was thinking about. But I think Elden Ring's world, part of the thing that I think is fun about it is it's kind of inconsistent and kind of weird and goofy and kind of doesn't make sense sometimes. Okay. So I didn't put this. I had this written as favorite. Favorite is not the right word, but definitely the best one this year was 100% Scorn. I have never seen a world that's completely and fully realized as Scorn. I would say it's comparable to playing some VR games of such a well realized, horrible, disgusting, despicable, horrendous world, and it is just so thoughtfully described visually and in the tone and in the language of the game that I cannot see it being beaten anytime soon of just such a wholly realized world like that. It's disgusting. It's gross.
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend it to. I don't think I could strongly recommend that game to literally anybody. But that setting is 1,000% one of the best settings in video gaming, period.
Yeah. I played maybe 20 minutes of it and just felt weird, like walking through it. Like everything felt like I shouldn't be there, which I think is just kind of a weird feeling to have as you're playing through it.
Yeah, it's a bad vibes game.
For sure, no question. Mine is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And I think just for the not necessarily like the setting of it, but just the whole world that's created in this game and how much they mess with it throughout. Just they created this world where people only live for 10 years, and You keep things going by killing other people, and it's just such a unique take on like a fantasy world and a sci-fi world with how people's lives function in this world and in these places. Everything is very detached from each other, so your characters have very little knowledge of what's going on in different parts of the world, and as you explore the world, just they learn more about it. And as you go through your 40, 50, some people 100 plus hours, however long it takes you to go through a side quest and stuff, you're constantly getting more information that's like flushing out what this world is and telling you more about why things are the way they are and why this is here and why that's there and where these things came from. And it's such a cool game to just discover what's going on in, and I love it so much.
It seemed to kind of what you were saying. They kind of like redefine what that world means multiple times.
Constantly.
I thought it was. I mean, I only played about half of that. I thought it was like a very realized world. I heard like, oh, then they change it later, and then they fully realize it again, then change it and realize. That's just very impressive. Yeah.
From your character's perspective, there's like 3 different worlds that you're in. Like as you go through the game, like it's very clear. Like this is very clearly the world we're in. No. This is very, but almost. And you just kind of get this change as you go through, and just. It's a game of constant development, and it's so good, and I loved it.
Yeah, cool.
So, loved it. Best game we didn't like. So kind of the opposite of that. So game we played most of, played a chunk of, that we just ultimately didn't like, but we can look at it and go, I understand that this game is very good.
Yeah, and this one's going to be a little bit weird coming off our review, because at that point I had put 40 hours into Horizon Forbidden West.
Ooh.
And I have tried finishing that game many, many times, and I think I would actually love to do a whole talk on how I think the RPG mechanics of that game made an otherwise very good game significantly worse.
You can ignore them. You can ignore them. You can ignore them.
Yeah, not on the difficulty I was playing at, but
that's your fault.
Brad's number 3, Horizon Forbidden West. To
be determined later.
I think, but basically what that game was, I was so excited for that game because I really, really loved the first one. And my biggest complaint with the first one was like, I don't like these RPG stuff with like these different stuff. And I really hope they turn that down. But instead they turned the volume up on those a lot, to the point it was I found it too distracting to even finish the game, because I was like, this RPG stuff that I think is just not very good is taking up a lot of time. It's taking up a lot of resources, pun intended, and I just wasn't enjoying it. I didn't enjoy it. Yeah.
To be clear, you played on like ultra hard mode.
I play on normal hard mode.
Whatever. But you played on not the one you should have played on, which is just play the game on normal and enjoy it.
I would love to do a video. I would love to do a follow-up video. We should do a spoiler cast where just me complaining
dive
about
on
the game.
Horizon Forbidden West.
Exactly.
A year later.
Yeah. It'll be worth the 10 views we get. Yeah.
There you go. My best game I didn't like is Pokemon Legends Arceus. So
didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I played through the whole game, all the way through. Waiting for something the whole time. And
where's that review on our channel, Brad?
It's not, because I think I finished it and went, I don't got anything to say about this game. I think that was literally when you asked me, like, oh, we should talk about it. It's like, no, I don't think I could talk for 10, 15 minutes about it. So I'll take 2 here. But I have very little history of Pokemon since like 12, 13 years old. Like Gold and Silver, I think, might have been where I jumped off the Pokemon train. So this was the first time in like 15, 20 years. I was kind of like, okay, like, let's see what this is. Let's see what it is. There's nothing. It came out in like January, February. There wasn't really a ton coming out around it, and it was kind of like, I saw it. They opened it up. It looks like something different than Pokemon. Maybe this could be my jumping on point. And it's just, I went through there just constantly waiting for something to happen, and I just feel like nothing happened. It's one of those things where I play a lot of JRPGs, and it just kind of felt like, it's like, okay, I get that maybe this is a step forward for the Pokemon series, but when you compare it to a lot of the other things out there, I wasn't feeling it. It was just like, okay, I caught more. Now what? Well, go catch more. But
the purpose of best game we didn't like is that we're assuming these are good games. Do you think this is even a good game?
I do, and I think that because I've listened to other people talk about it, like just kind of listening to other stuff lately, where people are kind of wrapping up the year, and a lot of people come back to it like it is a good game, and I think that for the Pokemon series, I feel like it is a good game. it has some unique things to it. Like I kind of like the like time traveler aspect of it. Admittedly, kind of seeing the monsters battle while you're kind of running around is kind of a cool twist on what I feel like Pokemon always was, where your character is kind of removed from any and all action. I think it has a lot of unique ideas.
Yeah.
It has a lot of concepts. I could see somebody very much enjoying this game. It's just like the whole objective in my mind, like looking back on it, like 9 months later, was go collect everything, which which is kind of the Pokemon thing, but just like I think in my mind, having detached myself from the series for like 15-20 years, was like, no, I get it, it's go Pokemon, you gotta catch them all, yeah, complete the Pokemon. But it's like in my mind there was always something more there.
Yeah.
And it was just like when I got to it, I was like, oh, there's not much more there. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why people like it. Not for me though.
I was thinking, I would have said Pokemon Scarlet for mine, but I don't think that's a good game. So,
and I think that got announced right around the time that Arceus did, and I was like halfway through Arceus, and I think I literally remember like halfway through Arceus being like, maybe that's the one. And then I finished Arceus and I was like, maybe 20 years from now we'll try again.
yeah, exactly. When my kids old enough to play Pokemon,
exactly. I'll jump in with them. All right. Best game we didn't finish.
Yes.
So made it through a chunk, but didn't actually get to credits, didn't complete it, whatever you want to consider finish.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, so I think the only rule of thumb that me and Brad have is like, we have to finish the game to talk about it on the podcast. So there's a lot of games that we kind of halfway play, or at least I halfway play for sure.
Yep.
And then don't finish up. The one that I really want to get back to is Signalis. I played about, think about 3 or 4 hours of it, and I just do real talk about that game. It has an art style that I am just like absolutely in love with at this point in my life, which is this sort of PS1 nostalgia, but making it better looking, where it's like this nice blend of 3D and pixel art. And I think that game, I kind of went in expecting Resident Evil, and instead I got a Silent Hill sort of psychological thriller. And I just, at that point, I was like, I need to be set aside some time to be like into psychological thrillers. Like I can play a Resident Evil game whenever I want, because it's like you're not really thinking. But this one, it's like talking about the human psyche. I'm like, I'll come back to this when I'm ready to explore the human psyche a little later. But I think we will eventually probably talk about that. But I just want to give it a shot because I really, really did enjoy that game. I just didn't get around to finishing it.
Nice. Yeah, that looked like the most Doug game I've ever seen.
Oh, it most certainly is. Just a little intense for this point in my life.
So I'm going to cheat here because I have two answers. One I feel like is probably like if we were to come back to this a year from now and actually finish it, would be like my best game. But
interesting.
That's Citizen Sleeper. I played like 30 minutes of it, and this is why I don't. I played like 30 minutes of it, and it was on like a Game Pass binge at like 11 o'clock at night, and I literally was like 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, this is just a lot of reading. I can't do this right now. And then that was like in the middle of like something else was coming out a couple days later that I don't remember what it was at this point, but it was one of those where it's like, I know I would love this. I just only played 30 minutes of it. So I don't necessarily want to give it to that just because I literally only played 30 minutes and that seems like it's cop out. Now this other one seems like a cop out as well. And that is Marvel Snap, which I never got credits on, so I'm going to consider it not finished.
You put a lot of time into that game. I don't know, Brad.
Out of curiosity, like a week and a half ago, I looked, and this was like 2 months into my Marvel Snap addiction. I put 9 hours into it in a week on my phone, and that was about 7 weeks into playing Marvel Snap, which was definitely not my peak. But anyway, I didn't get credits, so this is really secretly my way of giving Marvel Snap like my number 4 game of the year because I couldn't fit it into the top 3. So Marvel Snap is the most addicting game, and I'm still constantly playing it. I'm still constantly getting it. I think I got all the cards now. I can't quite tell. I'm on collection level like 1,000 and something.
Oh my god, that's like 100 hours. That's not beaten. That's not
well,
beaten.
then give it to Citizen Sleeper. I don't care which, but Marvel Snap is so much fun. Really, it is a constant thing. Like, it is the first game I think in the history, like maybe going back to like early Halo games, where it's like probably the first game since there's been like daily challenges and stuff where it's like, no, I'm gonna go in and get my daily challenges really quick. Let me do that. Yep, done. Okay, cool. And I'll come back tomorrow. I think I've literally played it like daily since like 2 months ago. It's amazing. It's incredible. And I'm not done with it because I didn't get credits. And that's when I consider a game beat, is when I get credits.
I didn't get credits at the casino. It's like you're not supposed to get credit. You're never supposed to win. I think
That slot machine.
I think that's exactly
I'm
the
gonna get
idea.
the credits on that slot machine someday.
Slot
I
machine,
promise
I will.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's my cop out answer. But Marvel Snap,
Yeah.
that's secretly my number 4 game of the year,
Yeah.
number 5 game of the year, somewhere right around there. But
Sure. Yeah.
it's so good. I love it.
Absolutely.
But anyway, other best games. Best game that you played this year that didn't come out in 2022. Play a lot of old games.
Yeah.
Just because time and all that other stuff. But what do you got?
Red Dead Redemption 2 is the best.
I forgot that was the
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
You went on and on about that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a half-hour review out there. I deeply, deeply, deeply love that game. I don't know why. It's a game I should not like, but I had to go and modify my top 10 games of all time list to make sure I could fit it on there somewhere. Yeah. No, I really, really love that game. I think it's probably the best game I played this year. I mean, it's hard to compare against Elden Ring. It's just a different type of thing entirely. No, I loved that game. I guess I just kind of read it really quick. It's just such a unique game, and I think that's the thing that really pulled me through, was just a completely unique telling of open world games, where the idea, maybe the objective of it is not to let's have fun in the open world, which I'll say is like Saints Row is like probably the most extreme of that, but everyone is like, let's have fun in the open world, and this one's like, no, let us coexist in the open world. And that's what I really, really enjoyed about that, was not only, playing this game, but playing this character within this setting and needing to survive within that setting. It's just a very cool game.
Yeah, and you texted me for like a month straight, like, but Red Dead Redemption, this thing in Red Dead Redemption. I just watched a guy build a house. I'm like, okay, is that cool?
I know it's the type of stuff that someday that I don't know. It's the most insane AAA game I've ever played in my life. It just doesn't make any sense. It's a game that should not exist, and I don't know. I'm surprised it sold as well as it did. Maybe just because it's called Red Dead Redemption 2, but I don't know.
Yeah, and it has a Rockstar logo on the box. So there you go.
Yeah,
done
exactly.
Done. Red Dead Redemption 2, Rockstar logo, done. I think you could put a Rockstar logo on anything, and it would sell 12 million copies at this point.
How much did that ping pong game sell?
No, to be fair, that was like 12 years ago, but it still probably sold a shit ton because it was Rockstar table tennis.
Probably did sell. Yeah, exactly.
Because somebody's like, no, it can't just be table tennis. Like, you're probably like stealing a car in there somewhere.
It was a really good table tennis game too.
I did. I would say I think table tennis, that kind of genre, I think it's up there as one of the better ones from what I know. But
definitely one of the only ones.
For sure. I cheated again. Best game from that 2022 is Crisis Core. I played.
Oh my! No.
Okay.
No. Did you play the PSP one?
I admittedly I
No,
did
you
play.
didn't.
I played 30 minutes of it.
That is then your favorite non 2002 game is the PSP version of Crisis Core, because
No, it's the PS5 version, but it's a 2022 game.
Hey, I'm usually the shitty one in this thing.
No, I know you are,
doubling
so I'm
up
gonna-
on stuff.
No, fair enough, so I'm gonna cheat
I
here.
played this game clean this year. I played the whole game of the year thing completely clean, and you come. No, even in the 2001 one, you got shied away from the Xenoblade Chronicles remake for the exact same reason, because you were gonna say that
Did I
was your
really?
best one last year. Yes, you
Did I
did.
really? I
Yeah,
should've
you
put,
did.
like,
You
a
said
listen to
you
things.
said the Xenoblade Chronicles remake was your best game that not came out that year, and then we both agreed that did come out this year. So you better change yours real quick.
Okay. So what's funny is when I was making my list of games that didn't come out this year, I was like, nothing really stood out like hugely.
Yeah.
The other, because I was like, oh, Crisis Core. I was like, ooh, Live Alive. And I was like, nope. Will you let Live
Why?
Alive slide?
Why are
but
you
not-
like this, Brad? I'll give
Well,
you more.
okay,
I'll give
so
it.
here's-
I'll give
so
Live
here's my
Alive.
next
I will give
issue.
Live Alive more. I'll give Live Alive more.
No. So here's my next year, because I was like, okay, like one that officially didn't come out in 2022. My thought was Ys 8 was going to be my pick.
Oh sure, yeah, why not? That's a
But
fun one.
that had a remastered PS5 come out this year. Now, granted, I didn't play that version, so I don't know if that counts or not.
No, they literally added nothing. It's just they added the DLC into it. So no, I'm
Yeah,
not
but that's
gonna,
something.
that one's fine.
Okay, so
No, you're trying to be shitty the opposite way. No, you're right. Then you could. It's easy.
I was trying to justify that, like my best one was also kind of released here. I just didn't play it. Anyway, okay, so we'll talk about Ys 8 then.
Yay. I give you Live Alive. I would give you Live Alive though. I'd rather hear you talk about Live Alive because we never talked about it on the podcast.
We didn't?
No.
I should have. Okay, cool. Then I'll take Live Alive as my best. See, but then I should be Crisis Core. Anyway. Live Alive is my second best, not to 2020. Anyway,
Eric.
so Live Alive, I think, is one of those games that just it feels so ahead of its time, where you can sit down and you can play it, and you're like, "What on earth is this game?" And I think you have like 9 wholly different experiences in the same game, and I absolutely love it the way that these are structured, where it's just you come in, you pick whatever you want. Specifically, I was thinking of almost giving this to like my best insert thing here is just they're short RPGs. You don't play a lot of short RPGs. There are 45-minute JRPGs in this game. And they're incredible. And it's just a short story. They're vignettes. They're amazing. Each one has its own style. There's one that plays like Street Fighter. Like literally like choose your next fighter Street Fighter is the entire thing.
Yeah.
There's a Western. There's one where you play for 2 hours. There is no combat. And it's just you walking around a crazy ass space station. There is so much weird in this game, and it feels so ahead of its time coming out in like 1993. I think if you put this game out now, people would look at it and go, oh my god, what the hell is this person thinking making a game like this? And this happened 20 years ago. The game is insane. It's amazing. I love it. Again, I had a really tough time narrowing down to 3 this year, honestly, is I think really where I started getting sketchy with this.
Oh, sure. Oh, you just want to talk about the other,
so
like,
there were,
put
like-
your 1 through 6.
That was my thing. It's like, in my mind, it's like, I feel... My number... Okay, so my 1 and 2 are, like, locks. Like, no question asked.
Sure.
But, like, my 3, it was like... is it Crisis Core? Is it Live Alive? Is it Marvel Snap? Is it Bayonetta? So really, like, every one of these is just an excuse to talk about a game that I couldn't fit in my top 3, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Sure.
So,
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. Whatever. It's our podcast. You can do whatever you want, man.
anyway. No, I can't, because I can't say Crisis Core.
That was continue.
But anyway, Live, it's incredible. Again, like Marvel Snap, it's one of those ones where it's just sitting there like, ugh, do I give this to a top 3? So,
yeah.
anyway. All right.
That's cool, though. I mean, that's really interesting because I would like more paradigm breaking with JRPGs, and number one being length, because I remember the South Park games were really short JRPGs.
Yeah,
and
they're
very
10 hours,
fulfilling,
10, 15 hours.
satisfying. Yeah, so I feel like you can make a satisfying JRPG. So that's. I realize
so
they're
good.
that short.
No, it's literally the longest one is maybe 3 hours. Like that's maybe the longest one, and then it does,
Yeah.
and of course, like they feel all individualized, and then at the end they come back in a really cool way, the way that they kind of tie everything up together at the end. If we were talking spoilers, I'd love to talk about how like the final act, the final boss, is such a cool shift of what you normally see for final bosses, because it is incredible the way that they kind of take that whole thing of a final boss and how that plays back in with
Sure.
all these characters and everything. It's very cool. I absolutely love the game.
That's cool. I'm
Yeah.
glad we talked about that because I haven't really got your opinion too much on Live Alive yet. That's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, the big stuff. Top 3. So we'll go 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Top 3 games of the year. So Doug, your number 3 game of the year.
My number 3 game of the year is Neon White. Neon White is sick. Neon White is a extremely cool game that I think a lot of people still kind of slept. I still feel like that game is like really underrated, even when it comes to like sort of like game of the year list at the end of the year.
Did it sneak into Game Awards? I think it got Best Indie or something like that.
Probably
right?
Best
It didn't-
Indie or something like
I
that,
don't think it
but-
snuck into like the main category.
No, and I was actually like genuinely shocked because like to me this is I enjoyed my time more with Neon White than I ever did Hades, I think Neon White is just one of the things that I struck with like certain games is like where they have like sort of a unique idea that's not nearly as fun as just shooting people. Where it's like, oh, this is a really cool mechanic, but just shooting a guy feels good. For whatever reason in video games, I don't know why it is, something with the immediacy of that. So it's just neat that Neon White took this language of a first person shooter and then turned it into a speedrunning game. So it's a concept that you feel like you wouldn't necessarily would think would work immediately. But it is just such a slick, super fun game. The only time I was ever chasing leaderboards, like I almost never do that outside of another game I really called Trackmania. But just that idea of like perfecting your run and making sure you get it exactly like that when the goal is not just to shoot people it's really neat. I really love the aesthetic too. I think it's just a really creative, really gorgeous aesthetic that I just hadn't seen before. Kind of like an asshole heaven is just kind of a fun idea to play around with. And I think Bayonetta kind of talked about it a little bit, and some other stuff kind of talked to it. Yeah, but this one's like, let's actually dive into it. I actually really I did enjoy the story, and I think I was kind of with most folks on the characters are kind of hit or miss, but I just think the setting, that was actually my other one for best setting, behind Scorn was probably gonna be Neon White, just because it's such a whole unique, cool thing that I think. I don't know. I feel like the game got a little snubbed. I do feel like that was like immediately one of the coolest games I played this year.
I feel like it's one of those games that if people played it, like they're like, no, I don't think you understand how good this is.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things. I think Midnight Suns kind of ran into this a little bit too, where it's like it got dinged for the cards. People see cards and get nervous, and I think that's honestly why I didn't. That's honestly why I didn't even like take a look at it, because I saw cards and I was like, cards. Yeah. So I think you kind of get dinged there, but it's one of those ones that I think anybody who's played it is like super high on it. So
it's sick. I hope I'm like super. This is like one of those like devs to watch for me, because they did Donut County before this, and going for Donut County to a super sick first person shooter, it was just awesome.
Quite the step.
Yeah.
So like I said, I had a really hard time with my three spot.
I thought 3 would be Marvel Snap for you. I was like, actually in my head when you said Marvel Snap wasn't in your top 3. I was actually genuinely surprised. I totally thought that was it.
So literally, like, while we were doing this, like the only thing I debated, like in this entire like list of things that we were trying to decide, was this number 3 spot. Because like Marvel Snap for sure could be there, Crisis Core for sure could be there, Live Alive for sure could be there. Ultimately, I went with the boring pick, God of War Ragnarok.
Okay, which, sure. Yeah.
If you listen to our review, I don't think either one of us were as high on as most people. Yeah. And I think like I almost feel guilty, because I feel like we gave that game like a little bit of a bad shake in that review. I feel like we were overly negative. It's a game that I think
maybe, yeah. I wasn't. I feel no guilt.
It's a game that, like, looking back on it, like a couple months later, there are still scenes from that game that stand out in an incredibly high way. And just listening to other people do Game of the Year stuff too, every time somebody mentions it, I kind of get like, oh yeah, that was really cool. Like, oh yeah, that moment with this character. Like, we originally had favorite character on this list, and hands down wasn't even a debate in my brain who that was going to go to, because I would probably put it as favorite character from the last 10 years almost, and that's Odin in this game, the way he's portrayed. So the game has a lot of really, really good things going for it that I can't imagine being topped soon. I do still have some issues with it, just especially in terms of like some combat stuff, but I think our review came off a little bit more negative than what I ultimately felt about it.
Sure.
And I really do think it's one of the best games that came out this year, even with those flaws that I think some people see, but I think a lot of people kind of like, no, like, let's overlook it, because it does have those just incredible moments in it.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I was thinking a little bit on our review. I still think I agree with it, but I think we could have talked a little bit more about the characters, which I think were a really, really strong aspect of that game. And especially some of the best set pieces out there, like really some of the best set piece fights, some incredible bosses. Just thinking about it now, where it's like, just there's one scene where you're climbing a giant, we'll just say mountain for lack of a spoilery term. That's just that the whole time you're climbing, it just feels insane and amazing, and just you constantly kind of get this looking down effect that I don't feel like I normally have in a game, where it's like, if they actually let me fall right now, I'm gonna be pissed. And again, by no means a perfect game that I think it kind of gets portrayed as a little bit, but I think it is definitely a really, really great game that I think looking back on, I enjoyed more than I didn't. Yeah.
But
that's fair. No, that's cool.
All right, number 2.
Number 2, and I talked about this game a lot, and this is not me being cheeky. This is not me being anything. It was the Mother demo for number 2. Which
I think we did 2 or 3 videos on it. Actually,
we did 2 or 3 videos on it. So I don't want to get too into it. But long story short, this indie dev took a very weird chance of basically putting the conclusion to his series of games into an obscure collection of demos for indie horror stuff that I happened to kind of download it. Anyway, regardless, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had playing any game. Yeah. I will like just literally never forget that experience of playing that bit. Playing that thing. I think right now, if you're like, oh, Doug said I'm just gonna go play that like right now with no context. It's like, probably I don't even know if people
Go.
would necessarily enjoy it.
Go listen to our review before you do, because I feel like there's a lot of backstory to that one that gets it here. I feel like if I didn't know your context to this, I'd be like, what the hell is wrong? What are you talking about? This thing's better than God of War and all this other stuff that we're talking about. But I think with your context,
yeah, it's not better than God of War. It's not better than whatever your favorite game of the year is or whatever. But it's to me, it just had one of my favorite gaming moments that I've just ever had. Period. So for that, I just like it. I can't. It's undeniably one of my favorite gaming experiences ever. So it's hard to not at least acknowledge it during Game of the Year stuff. So yeah,
nice. My number 2, you previewed before. Horizon Forbidden West, aka Doug's least favorite game that's ever been released.
That's exactly what I said. I said it has problems with the RPG mechanics.
So I'm not going to use this time to argue with you, but anyway, because that's
fine.
wrong.
I won't.
But,
I'll be positive. Yeah, why not?
I love this game so much. I think it's just the world of Horizon. I think it's just one of those things where the world is such a cool place to me that I think it will be hard for a Horizon game to not be one of my favorites. I think it's kind of reached for me that Star Wars level in my mind where it's just like,
really? That's fun.
I just want to know more about this world. Like, I will look at anything related to Horizon. I want to know more about this. I want to know more about the past. I want to know more about the present. I want to know more about where these things came from, how these things happened, where these things happened. I mean, it's the ending of this game left me sitting there like, you assholes, like, why is there not more right now? Like, it's one of those things where like the ending left me more furious than like most things because I want more of it so bad. And it's such a cool world. I think the way that they've kind of added to it, and this delves a lot deeper into some of the pre-events that you see in Zero Dawn, kind of dancing around spoilers a little bit. It adds a lot to what's going on there. It adds a lot to what could potentially happen. Delves a lot more into kind of the different factions of what happened when like the quote unquote modern world ends. And it delves a lot deeper into that. And there's just so many cool things where you go and you see these people are handling it different. You see these people are handling it different. These people believe one things, and it gets into kind of the religions that these different tribes have as you go through it. It's so interesting in the way that it built this world, that it expands on Zero Dawn. The gameplay, I think, is still fun and unique. I played on normal and avoided pretty much all of the RPG aspects because I found it boring. There you go. Yeah. There's Doug's little win.
I'm not saying anything. I was trying to be. I was being nice at this one. I'm being nice. I'm being nice with the top 3 stuff.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where again, it hit me really hard. There's a couple scenes again, kind of like God of War, where there's just these scenes where it's just like that scene will stick with me. There's different giant monsters that stick with me. There's different things that you do towards the end where it's just like, whoa, this is such a cool step that this game takes and what it's doing. And quite frankly, I think it might be the best looking game I've ever played. Hands down. Just some of the world, some of the places that you're exploring, some of the underwater, some of the coastal places you get to. It's incredibly breathtaking the way it looks. I still love tall necks. Every time you climb a tall neck is like the coolest thing, and there's 10 of them in here. Just the side stuff's fun.
Yeah, that Las Vegas. I mean, just to say, we're not. I know we're avoiding spoilers, but that Las Vegas scene was just like one of the coolest missions I've ever played. Period. It was just such cool. Everything was just everything sings in that game. I think in that level. I'm sure there's stuff later on that I didn't get to, but I just know that one level really.
Yeah, I do think that's a high point because you see class stuff from the old world. You see how the new world has kind of decimated that. You see Aloy respond to a lot of the things that happened back then and how they're impacting that. The combat's really good there. You get some of the good exploration in there, kind of going through some of these underground things, and it's a game that I absolutely love. It's a world that I love, and it's one of those things that I think in my mind has kind of hit that point of like, the second Horizon 3 is announced, like I will be pumped because I want to know more. And again, the way that ending previews what's coming. It's like, why would you leave it there? Like, I would have wished you would have just ended it like an hour earlier, so I didn't need to know that this is what's happening, because I want to know how this resolves. I want to start to go back to Halo, quote unquote, finishing the fight, so to speak. Like that type of thing. Like let's do it now. So love it. Horizon Forbidden West, amazing. DLC soon, gonna be great.
I was wondering. I'm curious how Shit, all this stuff. Yeah, I do want to. I think I do want to finish it. I do want to finish it. Just to do spoiler cast because it sounds like you're like because you're so into it. Like I would love to talk. I don't know. I like when we're talking about something one of us is passionate in. So I'd like to finish it. Maybe just do a spoiler cast.
Can you pop it down to normal in the middle of just pop it down?
I did actually. I did. I think I will. Yeah.
All right. The big one. Favorite game of the year. Go for it. Yeah. I know what yours is. Easy. I feel like it's pretty easy for both of us to pick out.
yeah, for both of ours game of the year. Yeah, I think Kyle Boston put it best. That it's very boring. That my favorite game of the year is Elden Ring, and everybody talks about it. And I don't even know a way to talk about that game that people haven't talked about 100 times forward and backwards. But I think that game just it was. I think that game was so much bigger and so much better than I thought it could be. It absolutely blew away any expectation I had of that game. I think when they're like, hey, it's an open world Dark Souls game, it's like, it's not just an open world Dark Souls game. It's an open world Dark Souls game with about 4 or 5 times the content of a normal Dark Souls game. So you're getting 3 or 4 Dark Souls games here. Not only that, you're getting, let's say an easier game maybe overall. It took away a lot of the frustrating things that I didn't mind in Dark Souls game, but not something I necessarily liked.
Yeah.
I think this does a much better job of I think I talked about in the review a lot. It has this really good forward momentum. I think with any Dark Souls game, the thing that they're always encouraging you to do is like understand the area really well. Make sure you perfect going through the area really well. And this one, it's just like, nope, there's a checkpoint right after that really, really hard part. So you never really have to go back to that hard part ever again. So you're always moving forward. And even when you get to a stop point, whether that's a boss, whether it's like some mystical gate that you have no idea of how to open, there's 100 other places you can go. And it was just, there's a game I like called Subnautica, which I think was a really cool game because you never really knew what to expect next. And this game it's a short game. It's like, Subnautica is like, I don't know, 8-10 hours long. And I really love that sort of puzzle box of like coming upon something new. And then Elden Ring had that exact same type of motif, and then just did it for 100 hours. I think I put 120 hours into that game, and I've been considering replaying it, or at least maybe finishing up the map and actually 100%ing the game, because I just really, really loved everything about that game and how it kept all the encounters interesting, how it kept surprising me from time to time with a new enemy, with a new fun way you didn't think the game could play in certain ways. I just think it's an absolute triumph. And it is, I think I said in my review, it's one of the best. I think I would have a hard time just saying just straight up best game, period. Like a game that I think is better than it. Yeah. I don't think that is. It's one of the best games I've ever played. And it's a cool, like, minor spoilers, I guess. They have like really cool bosses that are like homages to fun stuff like Lord of the Rings and like Godzilla and all this. It's like, so there's this goofy side of it as well that I really, really liked as well. But yeah, I mean, it's, I don't see how they can top it. I don't think that they are going to make a game that's better than. I don't think they can. I literally don't think they can make a game that is going to be better than Elden Ring.
Wasn't that right in his game of the year speech at a Game Awards or something like, and I have much better ideas than this working right now. I know you don't think this is the greatest game ever made, but trust me, I got some stuff brewing.
Maybe I just can't conceive of it. It's just every other Dark Souls I play, it's like there's ways you could fix this, and Elden Ring's like, oh, we fixed all that and then multiplied it by 4. It's like, okay, you can't at least do that trick again. Let's just say you can't do that trick again. You can't, unless you do an open world Bloodborne game, and that's what Bloodborne 2 is. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like the obvious pick for a reason. I still haven't played it, but I mean, the more I hear people talk about it, the more and more I'm like, oh, but I should.
Yeah. And I'm not going to try and convince you any more than I have, but I know. It's cool.
But it's cool. I mean, even what you're saying, it's like every time I keep hearing somebody go like, "It's my game of the year. It's my game of the year. It's my game of the year. Here's why. And it's, I think the interesting thing to me, and the thing why I think that game probably is the best game that came out this year, is almost every person has a different reason.
Sure.
Which I think is really unique to a lot of things. I think if you're picking God of War as your game of the year, I can tell you probably pretty close why somebody would pick that as their game of the year. Elden Ring, I think you get so many different answers depending on who's
Yeah.
saying it. Like, is it the combat? Is it the exploration? Is it the way that it pulls you forward? Is it just the art direction? Is it the... I think everybody has a different thing for Elden Ring that, like, this is why it's the best game. And I think that's a really unique thing. And I think that really probably does set it head and shoulders above a lot of the other stuff this year and prior to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the correct answer for best game of the year is very clearly Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It is probably one of the best JRPGs that has ever been made in my mind. I put it up there with Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy IX, just as some of Final Fantasy 6, 7, Remake, like the best Final Fantasies. That's right up there. Like the original Xenoblade, I think is just as good as, if not better. It's incredible. And I think it's one of those things where, for whatever reason, all these people are willing to invest their 80 hours into Elden Ring because people say it's the best, but nobody wants to invest their time into Xenoblade's 80 hours because it's the best. And it's like, you all are...
I put a good 40 in.
I think I finished in like 60 because I don't do all the side stuff all the time. But anyway, the game is incredible in every possible way. And I think the really cool thing about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is we could kind of delve into different parts, but it very clearly feels like lessons learned from 1 and 2. It very much feels like people loved this about 1, people loved this about 2, people weren't quite as hot on this in 2, so let's do this in 3. And it very much feels like kind of a amalgamation of the best parts of each of those created into this game. When it comes to world, I kind of talked about it already, so I won't get back into it, but just the way that evolves, and the whole game evolves so well. The characters evolve in who they're connected to, who they're not connected to, how they feel about things. The characters evolve constantly, and there's just different points where there's just 180 in characters because they're seeing something new. They're having these realizations that are like life-changing, earth-shattering revelations that are happening, and there's multiple of these. There's a couple twists in this game that come out and you're like, oh shit, really? That's what happened? Damn, okay, that's awesome. And even the combat, like, I think I still got a combat tutorial like 45 hours into this thing. And that's not to say the combat is overly complicated, but it's just constantly evolving. So as your characters evolve, they're getting new abilities, they're getting new specials, they're getting new things to combo into, they're getting these new things that are happening in combat, and it's changing it up. So if you play it for 60, 80, 100 hours, it's not the same combat you were doing at hour 5, at hour 20. You're getting these new things that are happening as you go through. Everything feels like it has a purpose. Everything feels like it has a meaning. Just, you go through and you collect characters that give you classes that let you change up how your characters play. You interchange all these things, different roles. Just everything in that game is so tight, so perfect, so well done, that it's just, it's incredible. It's such an accomplishment of just this, taking the things that have come before and just doing them so flawlessly. It's hard for me to pick out a spot in that game to go like, this is kind of the weak point, because I genuinely don't feel like there's many weak points in that game.
No, it was a cool game. Yeah, it's crazy that they can still get all those twists and turns with the story, because usually with JRPG stories, I feel like they're not as twisty and turny as maybe I'd like them to be over the length of the game, but it seems like that one, the plot in that one particularly was like very...
Xenoblade does do a lot of that in the other two too as well, where there's just there's different hard turns in them. This one has a couple just like really hard turns, and I think it's because the focus is so hard on this weird societal system that they've created with how your kind of quote unquote like grunt type people are just bought into this world, and then that world keeps constantly getting shattered. So because the world's so tight, like I was saying before, you really don't know much outside your one little valley of the world. You've never gone to the big giant castle. You've never gone to the enemy's side of things. You've never seen any of these other things. You just have your essentially like closed mindset on what I've seen is what I've seen, and that's where I am. So I'm sticking there, and that's what I believe. And as you venture out, those things are shattered. So it's almost not even like they're twists. I mean, there are some very clear twists, but it's almost more like just, the game didn't tell me about this greater world because my character didn't know anything about this greater world.
So you're having these revelations along with the character.
Along with the character, exactly. Yeah. It also has, I think a lot of people have talked about it too as one of the better moments this year. Just there's a probably an hour and a half worth of scenes that is arguably one of my favorite hour and a halves in any video game ever. Probably 70-ish% of the way through, 2/3 of the way through, that just, like had me edge of my seat. Like, what is going on? It's emotional. There's huge character implications, huge world implications. Like, just, it's probably one of the best set of cutscenes, and I would say it's probably close to like 30 minutes of cutscene, 3 minutes, 20 minutes of cutscene, like one of those scenes.
Yeah.
That probably takes about 90 minutes, but it is probably one of my favorite 90 minutes of a game, and for sure a long time, if not ever. It's so meaningful. The way that it's directed, the way that it's acted through by these characters, the way that it's kind of played out is just so good. So I absolutely love this game. It's you kind of said it with Red Dead, where it's like, I might need to reevaluate my top 10, top 20 if ever. Same with this. Like, I might need to reevaluate like the top 20 games of all times, because this probably deserves a spot in it.
Cool. Yeah, no, it seems like it's really cool that I know how much you like JRPGs, and it's really cool because I kept hearing like this is like the pen ultimatum JRPG, and it feels like we haven't had like a pen ultimatum of a genre in a while. I mean, like when's last time we heard like this is the pen ultimatum action adventure game? It's like, oh, it's been. I guess people are saying God of War.
I was gonna say, been like since November for God of War.
Yeah.
March for Elden Ring.
Yeah, like I just say like penultimate. Let's say like penultimate FPS was like Half-Life 2, maybe Titanfall 2, but it's just been a while. And it's just everything I hear about is like every JRPG fan just like this is like one of the best JRPGs ever made. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So there you go. End of 2022.
Yeah. What was your top three again? What was your 3, 2, 1?
God of War, Horizon, Xenoblade.
All right, and mine was Neon White, Mother Demo, and Elden Ring. Bum, bum, bum.
Interesting. So we got the 2 in there. We got the 2 that you're supposed to have in there.
Which is it God of War? God of War the one?
You gotta have God of War and Elden Ring. You gotta have God of War and Elden Ring if you're gonna do Game of the Year this year. That's the way it goes. Those are the 2 best games.
I mean, I could say like number 3 is like parts of God of War. I'll just say that my number 3 Game of the Year are many parts of God of War.
5 to 6 hours of the 25
God of War,
hours. Yeah, 5 to 6 hours of the 25 of God of War. Yeah, no,
Dude, 5 or 6 hours of God of War is probably one of my best games I've ever played.
I think this literally is getting into our review, which is if you cut 10 hours out of the game, it is fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening. We will see you later.
Bye.